From the 9th chapter of Nehemiah. And you saw the distress of our ancestors in Egypt and heard their cry at the Red Sea. You performed signs and wonders against Pharaoh and all his servants and all the people of his land. For you know they acted insolently against our ancestors. You made a new name for yourself which remains to this day. You divided the sea before them so that they passed through the sea on dry land, but you threw their pursuers into the depths like a stone into mighty waters. Moreover, you led them by day with a pillar of cloud and by night with a pillar of fire, to give them light on the way in which they should go. You came down also upon Mount Sinai and spoke with them from heaven, gave them right ordinances and true laws, good statutes and commandments. And you made known your holy Sabbath to them and gave them commandments and statutes and a law through your servant Moses. For their hunger you gave them bread from heaven, and for their thirst you brought water from them out of a rock. And you told them to go and possess the land that you swore to give them. From the Gospel of John. Again Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And from Matthew, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one after lighting a lamp puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Here ends the reading. Please be seated. This morning I continue my Epiphany song series. My morning messages make use of recently released songs from contemporary Christian artists. Epiphany is only a few days away, January 6th. So I have chosen a song that accentuates the historical theme of Epiphany, Jesus as the light of the world. That those who have lived in darkness have seen a great light, and his name is Jesus. Now the song is by an Irish group named Wren Collective, titled My Lighthouse. And one of the lead members of the band says this about the song. He says, living in Northern Ireland, lighthouses are something that we quite often see on our coastline. For us, it's become a picture of faithfulness of God and his consistency in our lives. He is the unshifting light. We all go through seasons of storms, troubles, and sorrows. And we can count on Jesus to be the fire before us the same way he led the children of Israel in the desert by fire. He's still that fire before us today, like a lighthouse. Then he goes on to say, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And throughout the centuries, the picture of the church is that we are the light of the world. That's what we're thinking about when we were writing this song, My Lighthouse. We sing about failures and doubting and knowing that God doesn't walk out on us. And he's at peace in our troubled sea. No matter what we're going through or looking for, you can know that God is not going to let you down. He's not going to let you drown in your circumstances.
In my wrestling, in my dance, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa. You are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa. You are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. In our Lutheran Church, we are very clear that everything rests on the grace of God. What have you heard? All you need to do is believe. Have faith in Christ. Well, the song, right in its beginning, cuts to the truth. There are times when our faith is shaky at best. Times when it seems that we've been beaten by this world and have a lot of questions for God. And the biggest one of all we ask over and over and over again to God, why? There's a wonderful story in Mark. A father brings his son to Jesus who is filled with an evil spirit, asking Jesus for help. Jesus says, well, all you need to do is trust me, to believe. This is how the man responded. He says, I believe, help my unbelief. And Jesus cast out the demon and the boy was well. See, it's in my wrestling, in my doubt. And the song is telling us the best part. Even when we're at our worst, especially when we're struggling the most, God's not going to walk out. Even when you're having trouble believing, God won't walk away. He loves you too much. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Garrett from the Wren Collective said that the story that inspired these words was that story when Jesus came walking on the water to the boat, and Peter jumped out of the boat into the sea that was very, very wild. And it says he was walking on the water. It says because he was focused on Jesus. He was able to walk on the top of the troubled sea. See, Jesus is a peace in the troubled sea. Now, the troubled sea that each one of us face can be very, very different. It comes in so many different forms. For some, it comes in the form of illness. It might take the shape of marital conflict or even struggles raising your children. Your troubled sea might be the place you go to work every single day. Your troubled sea might be the guilt you're struggling with or the temptation that that's trying to take over your life. These words, troubled sea, are very important because no one has the exact challenges in life, but we all have them. And for all of us, life at times is troubled sea. After all, this place which we live, it isn't heaven. Now we know that life is filled with beauty and wonder and awe, so many things we can be thankful for. But some days might simply seem to be a troubled sea. So the song offers another great epiphany scene. Jesus comes to us as peace. Peace in the midst of the troubled sea. In the silence you won't let go. In the questions your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. I was thinking about that idea of silence. Mother Teresa, when she talked about silence, she was talking about that important time of listening and letting God in. To her, silence meant prayer. But I think the song here is talking about a different kind of silence. It's when you have trouble feeling the presence of God. The silence is as if God is absent. I was reading a blog where someone wrote that they couldn't understand why in the situation they were in that God was silent. So an atheist came on the blog and responded. Well, the reason that God seems silent is because he's absent. No one's home at that address. See, in the silence, we can be tempted to believe just that. There are times when we want to question God's love. Sometimes when we're even wondering if he's walked away. Some even yield to that temptation of wondering if there is a loving God at all. So the silence that the song is talking about is when we start to think that somehow God isn't listening to us. Somehow God is silent in all of this. But this is what the song is trying to teach us. A very important truth. Silence never means the absence of God. So much like that well-known poem, Footprints in the Sand. It's in our most troubled time, God is carrying us. He's holding us. See, when we're walking through that troubled sea, God has a grasp on us, and He's not going to let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. When Jesus was on trial before Pontius Pilate, Pilate asked him, what is truth? Now, truth is not what just makes you feel good. Bad news can be true. Truth is not just because the majority say it's true. Or just because you believe something is true doesn't make it true. A lie can be believed, but it's still a lie. So Jesus one time made an incredible statement which makes the song all come together. He said, I am the truth. That's what Jesus said. In the questions, your truth will hold. See, Jesus is the answer to the questions no matter what and how many struggles you're going through, He's not going to let go. And it's because Jesus is the truth, that He is the love of God in the flesh, and because He's the truth, you can always be sure that you are the peace in the troubled sea. See, Jesus is the peace in the troubled sea. It's important in the song to know that it's Jesus we're speaking about. There's another epiphany moment, that you are the peace in the troubled sea, that my lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. This picture I have up here actually is the lighthouse in the hometown I grew up in, Menominee, Michigan. I'm on my Facebook. I can go to the Facebook page of if you're from Menominee, and then it goes on. And almost 80% of the pictures ever posted on there is the lighthouse. Seems to be kind of the landmark of the city. When we lived in Racine, one of the landmarks, and most tourists would always go to it, was the lighthouse. Did you know on the Great Lakes there are 129 lighthouses? Now there's purposes for the lighthouse. Serves as a navigational tool for boats, and it warns boats of dangerous areas, like a traffic sign on the sea. So in many ways, Jesus becomes our lighthouse so that we might be able to navigate through life. On Christmas Eve, we lit our candles, hearing the promise that Jesus was our light, to dispel darkness, to show us the way in the midst of the darkness. To follow Christ in His ways helps us to be more aware of the dangers that are around us and ahead of us. Following Christ helps us to navigate us through this thing called life. My lighthouse, I will trust the promise you will carry me. See, Jesus carries us, even through the most troubled sea. The most difficult challenges in life, Jesus will carry you safe to shore. Diets from the Red Collection also says this, that this is his favorite song in the line. In the line in the song, Safe to Shore. He says that's why we sing it so many times. So I only posted up there too, but if you listen to the song, it's actually sung about 4 or 5 times. Now remember, as we're singing this Safe to Shore, that what they're talking about is something where Jesus is taking us through all life, that you can trust Him no matter what. No matter what, Jesus will always lead you close to safe to shore. He's your harbor to safety. You won't be overcome by the waves of life. Now, of course, you know the shore he's leading you to. Or I said, this is not heaven on earth. Well, he's leading you to heaven. That's the ultimate promise. No matter how many twists and turns this life can take you, no matter how many storms and waves we're called to face, he's going to carry you safe to shore to live with him forever. He's the lighthouse that's going to carry you through the life to that safe shore. Know what that means? It means I won't fear what tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing, my God's love will lead me through. Jesus talked about this so often. He says, you don't have to fret. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. It may or may not be another storm like today. It may pose things totally unexpected. But either way, there's one thing you can be certain of. God's not going to let you go. His love is going to carry you through. He can drown all your fears in perfect love. You are my peace in the troubled sea. My lighthouse, I'll trust the promise you'll carry me safe to shore. Isn't that a great image? One of the things I noticed in that image is that Jesus is holding the light and shining, but notice where most of the light is. It's actually below. Jesus becomes the light. And it leads us right to the next song. Fire before us, you're the brightest, you'll lead us through the storms. Jesus is sometimes referred to as the bright morning star. Now you know what the bright morning star is? In the morning, you can't see many stars. The morning kind of covers them up. So the bright morning star has to be the brightest, the one you can still see even when morning comes. All of the stars lost except for Christ. More than that, Jesus refers to himself as the light of the world. See, if you're without Christ, you're in the dark. But when you're with Christ, as the text says, darkness is dispelled, scattered, dissipated, dismissed. God is the light, and in him there is no darkness at all. I love that text. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. With Christ, it's safe to shore. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. When Jesus says he is our light, that's what he's calling you to do, to follow him. To become Christ-like in the world. My lighthouse, I'll trust a promise you'll carry me. My last slide, the picture I selected, to me offers the message, the promise of the whole song. One of the reasons that the artist tells us it's his favorite words of the song. Safe to shore, safe to shore. It's all about peace. And the only way to find peace is to follow Christ, our lighthouse. And you don't have to wait till you get safe to shore. You can have joy despite your circumstance. Knowing that Jesus is your advocate. And you can loudly proclaim, you're the peace in my troubled sea.